be here with all of you. We've got actually a bunch of celebrities in the audience. There are winemakers, there are important luminaries from the CIA and from Copia, which you may or may not know, but it was started by Julia Child, a culinary icon of America, who though brought the idea of food TV and getting back into the kitchen to the United States, but also worked with Robert Mondavi, and it was really Robert and Margaret Mondavi who created this beautiful institution that you can visit. And when you're coming to Napa Valley, we'd love to have you join us for Quench at Copia. This is our live stream celebrating America 250. Yes. And so I dressed the part, of course, and we dressed the set a little bit. But yesterday was, as many of you hopefully remember, it was Bastille Day, and so we got to give a little love to our French friends, without whom we would not have a country. And I think most of us who've studied a little bit of history know that our revolution was a collaboration with the French. Our love of wine and food is very much a collaboration with the French, and our love of what we stand for and what the French stand for, liberty, is very much alive and well. So we're super excited to be celebrating that. We've been doing the last couple of episodes of Quench, we've been focused on a lot of the aftermath of another French-American collaboration, which was, of course, the Judgment of Paris in 1976, where California wines were tasted blind with classic French wines that were the style counterparts, so Chardonnays from Burgundy and Cabernet Sauvignons from Bordeaux against California Chardonnays and Cabernets. And the California Cabernets won that tasting done by French judges. And when people say that, they often think like, oh wow, this is like a big competition. The scores were a hair's breadth apart, right? It wasn't quite like today's semifinal, which I know that was a big crazy thing in the last minute. But and when I say semifinal, I mean the World Cup. But they were super close. What it really showed us is that California wines were back. And the reason I say that is because they were a big deal in the late 1800s. Then we had phylloxera and Prohibition. So it took us quite a while to get back to today. But today is, in fact, about, I'm calling my theme is Root Sipty-Sip. We kind of have a cute little graphic, I think, for that. Let's check that out. And I happen to be skateboarding through the Kronos Vineyard in St. Helena. But look what AI can do for us, right? That skateboarding shot was actually, though, also done in the Napa Valley, but that was in a winery tank room. I'm not going to say which one, because while we broke no OSHA rules at all, maybe they wouldn't want us to tell that. But so that was really me on a skateboard overlaid into a shot of the Kronos Vineyard. Thank you. And I'll put that over there for you to pour. Appreciate that. But today we're actually going further afield, and that's why I called it Root Sipty-Sip, because we're expanding our tasting horizons and our focus on iconic American wines that are not in that classical Chardonnay and Cabernet vein that we've been talking about quite a lot lately, but nevertheless represent both the up-and-comers as well as icons that maybe don't get the same spotlight. And so we're going to have some fun with that. But I am going to do a little audience poll now, because what we have in front of us, and I'm not going to do it on Slido because my technicals didn't work, but what we have in front of us is, for the audience to know at home, we have a Finger Lakes New York Riesling. You guys have these all on your tasting sheets. So New York. We have a Virginia Viognier, so Virginia. And then we have an Oregon Pinot Noir. And we have a Texas Tempranillo. And we have a Washington Cabernet Sauvignon. And, of course, a California Zinfandel. So of all those states that I mentioned, yell it out in the audience. Which states, if any, are actually traversed by the real Route 66, which is, of course, the highway that started in the middle of the country and made its way, well, you may know, Route 66. Anybody know which states that we're tasting through are touched by that? Texas, yes. And California, very good. Yes, it goes from Chicago all the way to basically Anaheim, or essentially, Disneyland. And this all started in the 1920s to kind of connect the back roads of America. and really got us on our way. So we have a couple of wines on the actual Route 66, but let's jump right in. And you're wondering why I have an empty guest seat here. It's called California traffic. It's called specifically Bay Bridge Route 80 traffic. So we do have a fantastic award-winning sommelier coming, Tonya Pitts. She'll jump into the scene when she gets here. That's what live TV is about, and traffic is about. So, but we're going to start with and take a look at our first two wines. So we've got the Finger Lakes Riesling, the Hermann J. Wiemer, the HJW Vineyard Riesling. And go ahead and start nosing that wine. And then I'd love for you to compare it. Maybe not necessarily taste yet, but go ahead and smell and compare wines 1 and 2, because wine 2 is a Viognier. And when we've got a Riesling, that's the grape variety, classically associated with, for a lot of people, Germany or the Alsace region of France or Austria. Those are the classic places. And they all have what in common? What does Riesling really need to succeed? Very often, a cool climate. So that brings us to the Finger Lakes. And let's take a look at our image. We have a beautiful drone image from the Finger Lakes here. This is actually Seneca Lake, which is one of the main ones. And you see the vines are right on the water. Now, the reason they're called the Finger Lakes is that when you look at the map, you see this, what looks like a hand facing down. The Native Americans, the First Nations, thought that it was really the sort of the hands of the gods that had scraped or carved out those lakes, but they're like 2 million years ago during glacial action, they were carved out, and they're unbelievably deep lakes, hundreds and hundreds of feet deep. So you might think of maybe the Finger Lakes of upstate New York as being even too cold for Riesling, but what those lakes do is they hold the summer's heat at the end of the growing season to expand it and lengthen it so the grapes get ripe. And in the springtime, they hold the winter cold to keep the grapes from budding out before frost risk is over. So Finger Lakes, fantastic place for Riesling now. But when you smell the Riesling versus the Viognier, what are you getting? What do you think? Classically, I know I have a couple of trained tasters in the audience. What should we expect from these grape varieties? Pretty beautiful aromatics, right? Really intense aromatics. And so what we get on the Riesling is kind of a nice starfruit, floral, honeysuckle quality, versus when you go to the Viognier, it's a little bit sort of more tropical blossoms like jasmine and things like that. But Hermann J. Wiemer, we chose this because they are truly an iconic producer of Finger Lakes Riesling. That is one of their signatures. The other signature of the region, there are really two. One is Cabernet Franc, which is a red grape, so you guys should definitely check those out. But also, they're doing a lot, especially through the Cornell Viticulture School, with pretty interesting hybrid grapes. We have actually a PhD from Cornell Viti up there, who's now brought her scientific chops here to California. But in any case, they're doing amazing things with grapes that basically cross the best characteristics of American grapes with European grapes, so you get the American climate hardiness that works in places like the Finger Lakes, but you get the European finesse of the aromatics and the flavors. So let's go ahead and taste it. And we have a fantastic pairing plate that is inspired by America 250. We have a brisket slider. So barbecue, now let's just get this straight, everybody. Barbecue is not the thing you do on the grill. That's grilling. Barbecue is a recipe. It is a way of cooking meat. Okay, now it sounds like I'm being bossy, and I am. But I just remember when I moved to the Northeast after living in Texas, and people would say, we're gonna barbecue. And then they would cook hot dogs or hamburgers on the grill, and I'd be like, that's not barbecue. Okay, so barbecue, depending where you are in the country, it might be brisket, smoked brisket in Texas, or it might be ribs in another part of the country. It might be a certain type of sauce. How many people here in Napa, if you come to Napa to visit, gotta go to State Line Road, barbecue, got a couple of hands and lots of hands, okay? Everyone's like, okay, I might be going by there after we're done. But fantastic barbecue there, all the different styles, but Chef Derek is originally from Kansas City, where State Line Road is kind of the strip for all the great classic Kansas City barbecue joints. He has the pedigree of the Thomas Keller Restaurant Group and Bouchon Restaurant, but then he decided, hey, I'm going to open my dream of a barbecue place. So yes, we drink great California wines with barbecue here in Napa, but so you've got that. We've got a red rice andouille, special kind of low country style rice dish. We've got a country ham, Virginia country ham slider on a biscuit because we're tasting Virginia wine. Lots more to come on that. And we, of course, have mac and cheese, and that's got its own American story. And then we have, as we always do, popcorn, because popcorn and wine, well, you've got high fiber and you've got antioxidants. It's a doctor's note on a plate. All right, so that's our pairing plate for today. When we talk about Riesling, we talk a lot about food affinity, and there's a really good reason for that. Riesling, I always say it's the Riesling for living, other than your family. But sommeliers love it. Sommeliers geek out over Riesling because why? What is it about Riesling that they love? Acid, exactly. The acidity is like that spark plug of flavor enhancement for everything else that's on the plate. So if you've got fatty food, if you've got salty food, cuts right through. Think about all the condiments in your cabinet or in your refrigerator. At least half of them are acid, otherwise they're salt. And that's really what you're doing with it. You're not looking to make things sour, you're looking to unlock flavor and make your mouth water, because when your mouth waters, food tastes better. So what do we think of this wine?
Crisp and clean.
You say crisp and?
Crisp and clean.
Crisp and clean. And then it also, once you get it on the palate, it has this nice little bit of weight that you didn't expect. And it's also completely dry. Now, I want to talk a little bit for a second about what they're doing specifically at Hermann Wiemer, because it's a challenge to do viticulture in the Finger Lakes. It's cold, and so they have to actually hill up the vines during the winter growing season, meaning build up the dirt around them to kind of create insulation so they don't freeze. But they also have, typical East Coast humidity that sometimes gives them disease pressure, things like mildews that you might find on your tomato plants. You're gonna find it on the vines in those parts of the world. So Hermann J. Wiemer is doing something called biodynamic viticulture. And how many people have heard of biodynamic viticulture? And we sometimes hear a lot about it, and you hear that it has sort of relation to the phases of the moon and the cosmic movements. But the fact of the matter is that it's primarily no chemical inputs, and then treating the whole farm as an ecosystem. So they might have animals on the farm that are doing some of the grazing. In fact, I have a cool little graphic of that. These are the, all-you-can-eat laborers that mow the vines at Hermann J. Wiemer. But you also see the Demeter, and the Demeter is the agency that certifies biodynamic. So when they go biodynamic, it's a big commitment, and a third party certifies in the same way that USDA or California Certified will do organic certification, so that they are doing it, though, not to put on a label and try to impress us. They're doing it because of two things. So we'll take a little look at the owner, Oscar Bink, explaining why biodynamics.
So if you look at the challenges, disease pressures and cold winters, and biodynamic itself is actually a pretty proactive way to build up resilience in the vine. So you put a little more effort in your viticulture, you pay attention to the challenges you have, but using more natural product to actually build up a healthier plant that prepares itself for the challenges. So with biodynamics, quality is actually a driving force. We've seen the healthier vines are also giving healthier must and healthier juice. So the fermentation are healthier, faster, and better. So it's actually the effort derives from the quality.
So I think that's a really interesting thing and a cool thing to point out, is that the idea of it isn't just because about the land or about inputs. It's about quality and about more resilient vines, right? And just like all of us, we know that if we get more sleep, eat better, get more exercise, we're physically more resilient, we're gonna probably be have greater longevity and greater productivity. We as people, vines are just the same, right? And they're rooted in place, so they need all the help they can get. We can run around and take care of it ourselves. So what I'd love for you to do is try that wine with the popcorn. This is truffle salted popcorn. And if you are a rice person, I definitely recommend that you taste it with the low country rice, because really another thing that sommeliers love about Riesling is that it handles spice really nicely. And I don't mean just heat spice, but I mean any kind of exotic spice. And this has a little bit of those sort of, kind of in the realm of Cajun spices. It's got the andouille sausage. So what do you think of that pairing? Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, we got a thumbs up in the back. Everybody else is chewing, and that's the other thing too. I know we got 2 thumbs up back there. People always say like, well, what should I do? How do I make the most of it? And I swear by this technique. All right, I've been really bossy so far, but this is a really important one. It will change your life. I will give you my social security number so you can add me to your will, because you're going to want to. When you eat the bite, then chase it with the wine. And that's how you're really going to get the major magic of it, right? The other way around, you don't get quite the same thing, because it's like the wine just washes it down, but then the acid explodes everything else that's there. So absolutely delicious. And what do you think of that wine? Yeah, it's really, really, really tasty. And I'll just say that we did a wine game show. I'll tell you more about that in a little bit, but we did Old World versus New World, and all the tasters in the wine game show, they judged that this wine was a classic German top-of-the-line Riesling because it was so typical and classic. But it also, and it won the hearts and minds of the tasters, so that's great. So we are going to go on to wine number 2, and I had the opportunity to visit this winery, Veritas, as part of filming for my documentary series, The Swirled Cup. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a bit. But it really celebrates the explosion of the global wine culture and the expansion of it following the 1976 Paris tasting, and food and cultural and restaurant identity and connection right along with it. I remember when I started in the restaurant industry, there was no such thing as wine by the glass beyond house white and house red. And now we just don't hardly know what to think if even like the airport lounge has fewer than 5 of each color, right? That was not the case, and I think many of us can remember that. Virginia is, of course, in a lot of ways a heart center of American wine because of Thomas Jefferson, who, as you probably know, and I think Hamilton did as well as any of our history classes to teach us some of the ins and outs of this. But when he was the ambassador to France, he became so enamored of the wine and culinary culture there, and then brought their grapes back, had a lot of failed attempts to get them to grow in Virginia because of the climate, but also something called phylloxera. And phylloxera is a microscopic root louse that the roots of European vines were not immune to, and so phylloxera killed them. And they tried again and again, couldn't figure out what it was, and then actually a Texan from Denison, Texas, where I lived when I was little, figured out, hey, there's these vines down in the hill country that seem to be resistant to this, and now most of the vines across the globe that are European vines are planted on Texas origin rootstock. So that's how Virginia today has become quite a place for great vinifera vines, European style. So we've got the Viognier from Veritas. And how many people have had Virginia wines before? Yeah, and the interesting thing and the fun thing is that if Thomas Jefferson were around now, he would be so stoked, because there are, first of all, the European style wines that he loved, specifically Bordeaux style, so Cabernet and Merlot based, that are doing really well there. In fact, so much so that one of their top estates was recently purchased by the family that owns Chateau Montrose, one of the most famous Bordeaux's. And when I went there to film, they said, well, we share an ocean with Bordeaux, and it's true. They both had that Atlantic coastal influence, and they related more to the style of Cabernet that they could produce in Virginia than the Napa style. But this is Viognier, which really became a signature of Virginia wines early in the game. At Windows on the World, we actually had one of their early leading producers called Horton on the list. But this is Veritas, and it's unbelievably beautiful property. Before I jump into that, though, I forgot to show you the label of the Hermann J. Wiemer. So let's just jump up on the wine. It's wine 1. My camera switcher's like, wait, don't call it that. Tell me what it is. Okay, so we mentioned that it was biodynamically farmed, and that this is entirely hands-off, really clean stainless steel tank fermentation. And indigenous yeast, that simply means the yeast that comes in on the grape skins. And that is really part of the environment and therefore the expression of the wine. There are lots of ways to do it, but winemakers that use the indigenous yeast think that's really part of the expression of the vineyard itself because it comes off the vineyard. So let's take a look at the wine 2 label. And this is the Veritas Viognier. And you can see it's the Monticello or Monticello, depending how you want to say it, appellation within Virginia, 100% Viognier grapes, and mostly stainless with a little bit of neutral oak, and then aging on the lees, which is the solids that settle, for a few months to give it roundness and creaminess in the palate. So go ahead and taste it if you haven't already. And how many people have had Viognier before? Got quite a few who've had it before. How does this compare? I mean, would you recognize it as Viognier? Oh yeah, absolutely. It's got that sort of that like slick, almost creamy, but also like almost oily texture to it. A beautiful, and speaking of slick, we got one.
Let's say slick, but not say slick, because I thought I left him plenty enough time.
You did great. Have a seat, my girl.
Hello, everyone.
Wait, you gotta sit down because everybody at home can't see you. You're just out of frame.
Oh.
Now we got it.
Hello, everyone at home.
All right, so let me introduce my guest. Tonya Pitts, award-winning sommelier. Those of you who are Bay Area or have dined in the Bay Area, you remember Tonya's home-based restaurant that was very much a specialist of iconic American wines. We're going to stop. We're going to hold for a minute on the Veritas Viognier. Just welcome, first of all.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for
we
having
just finished tasting the Hermann J. Wiemer, so let's toast to our first opportunity to be together in a long time.
And I'm going to back up for one moment.
Please.
Oh my gosh. So, when Andrea and I were talking through everything, one of the first things I told Andrea, I said, you know, one of my fondest memories for New York and the East Coast was when I was working for Loretta Keller at BZ Restaurant, which was actually my first gig. I had a wonderful opportunity to try wines from the East Coast. This was probably 1993.
When she was 11 years old.
Yeah.
Just kidding. That's awesome.
Mind blown.
Yeah.
To have Cabernet Franc from the North and South Forks, and to have wine from Hermann J. Wiemer and from Dr. Constantine Frank, and just a whole new world opened up for me. There was this really wonderful woman, Nurit Rubachowski, who had a really wonderful book called Discoveries in Wine. And she would go all around the country and all around the world, bringing in these little gems and little jewels. And so, here's to the East Coast, the Finger Lakes, and New York. And who would have thunk it?
Yeah, love that. Here's to, indeed. Although, Dr. Constantine Frank, to your point, he would have thunk it, right?
Yeah.
Because he came from the Caucasus, from what was, I think, Georgia at the time. And everyone said he was crazy to try to plant vinifera grapes, which are the European species, that far north. And he said, I'm from Georgia. It's really cold there, too. Yep. We got this. And he started with something like I think Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and eventually expanded to something like 60 varieties of vinifera, and changed the whole East Coast approach.
And his granddaughter is carrying on the legacy.
Yes, absolutely. So good to have you here. We are just jumping into the Virginia Viognier from Veritas. And I mentioned to the group that it's a frequent winner of the Governor's Cup, which is an annual competition that they have in Virginia for Virginia wines. What's cool about it is that there's such a diversity of wine produced in Virginia that competition, the winners, and this Viognier has been a winner multiple times, but the winners are always really diverse, right? You might end up with a hybrid, you might end up with a Norton, you might end up with a Nebbiolo, and anything in between. But this is Emily Hodson, who is the winemaker at Veritas. Her family started that property. It's a little bit of a pinch me kind of destination because they have a farmhouse restaurant, lots of beautiful places you can stay. Have you been?
I have not yet, but I will tell you, when people ask me about Virginia, the first thing I tell them is, when you think of elevation and you think of California, Washington, it's the same in Virginia. The higher up you go, the harder everything has to struggle, the more flavorful everything is, the more diverse the soils are as well, and the more extreme the growing conditions are as well. And it's not just there. We think about Missouri, Illinois, Utah, all these other places. Texas, I'm not going to get ahead of myself as well. All these other places, it's so much fun, and it's so interesting because we have this plethora and this treasure here in our own backyard, or backyards.
Yes, our
so
big backyard.
Big backyards. Yeah.
But how lucky we are,
Oh,
right?
we're so lucky, so blessed.
And it's, so they do some really cool things there with food and wine pairing. You can stay, they have horseback riding, and it's not very far from DC, so like I think it should be a bucket list, and then you're just, right, in the Shenandoah River Valley, and you've just got that whole, you can go fishing,
The Blue Mountains.
Yeah, exactly.
You can go hiking.
Yeah.
You can go camping.
And you can go see, Thomas Jefferson's residence, and just
That's
the history.
a whole other story.
Yes. Yeah, I mentioned that, he tried so hard to have success with vinifera vines in Virginia that he would be so excited about wine there now if he could come back.
Well, there's so much history, not just there in Virginia, but in Washington, and how Bordeaux in France, the wines came to America and were used for trading, as well for anything and everything. And people learned to cook and to become, well, it wouldn't have been Michelin star then, but the cooking schools then.
Absolutely.
Just, it's amazing. There is so much history. And I think, actually, Dame Tonya Holland is doing a course this summer in Virginia.
Dang.
And it is on Thomas Jefferson and on the culinary tradition there in Virginia. And I think it's something new that she's going to be doing. So if you're at all interested, not this year, but next year, and you'll be able to go and check that all out.
Well,
there's cooking and all sorts of stuff. I'm so sorry I missed it.
Right? Speaking of culinary traditions, though, in Virginia and Thomas Jefferson, a little known fact is that he brought mac and cheese back from Europe, from his Europe travails. So I would recommend that you try the mac and cheese with the Viognier, because I think here we're basically going richness with richness, weight with weight, and Virginia Thomas Jefferson with Virginia Thomas Jefferson culinary, because it was quite a sensation. I think ice cream and baked Alaska were also culinary traditions that he kind of figured out from his travels in Europe. And I'll also say that the rice, that the southeast part of the United States, the Carolinas and that area in Virginia, that they're so famous for. We've got this beautiful red rice that you should try with this wine as well. I read Thomas Jefferson and Wine, which is about an 18-hour read, and I learned as part of it that he went on, took a horse and buggy, got to the Dolomites, and the horse and buggy couldn't make it over the mountain, so he went to horseback, got over into Piedmont, fell in love with Nebbiolo, which is the famous grape of the Italian Piedmont region, and then stole rice from the Po River Valley to bring back to the United States, which was a crime punishable by death at the time. So he was really serious about his food and wine and bringing the best possible, not just grape varieties, but also rice back.
I bet he threw fantastic dinner parties.
Yes, it's very famous for those dinner parties, for sure. Did anybody try any other pairings with this wine that you liked? So I want to just bring us back one quick second to the lifestyle piece, because we were talking about what it'd be like to visit there. We had a little video from Emily talking about the importance of how the Judgment of Paris tasting kind of created something in this country that we didn't have, which was a wine culture.
Veritas.
I mean, it definitely opened the floodgates, sort of, for a wine culture in America, and I'm very thankful for that. It's probably what I see happening at Veritas that just really does brand Virginia wine, because that experience of just sitting out on the deck connecting, and that's my favorite part is, and sometimes I'm actually jealous because I'm at work, and I see they're having such a lovely time on a Tuesday at 3 o'clock, and I'm like, wow, these people have got this right.
Right? Okay, speaking of lovely time on a Wednesday, it's good to be us.
It is good to be
Yay. So I hope you'll give that whole region a look. Yes, we're here in the Napa Valley and we're in the beautiful California wine country, but there's just so much to see and do.
Yeah, Cabernet Franc,
Yes,
Norton, hybrids. Don't be afraid of hybrids.
go for it.
It's just another type of vinifera. Flavor profiles are very similar, or sometimes a little bit different. And that little bit different, there's nothing wrong with that. They actually wind up being a lot more of what you would find in your kitchen cabinet, in your pantry, really. The things that you would find in your spice rack.
Yeah,
Within cooking.
yeah, I love that.
So it's actually really pretty fascinating and awesome.
And a lot of fun because there's something different. And I think when I was visiting there, they were saying that the new generation of wine drinker is excited about it because it's like they're excited that they haven't heard of it, as opposed to that, being intimidated by that. It's like, ooh, let me see. And when you think about it, how natural wines and orange wines and things like that have taken off. And you and I both remember when Albarino wasn't something that people knew about, or New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. So it's just mo better.
Well, and now you can find Albarino grown here.
Yep.
And Verdejo
Yep.
grown here as well.
Yep.
So
So it's just horizons expanded, and that's the beauty, I think, of the American wine landscape, because we don't have the appellation rules of Europe, and so we can kind of do what we want, and being Americans, that's what we do.
we can play around and we can experiment, and just like they did
Yeah.
in the original origin.
Yeah.
Does this work here?
Yes.
Will it grow here? Will it thrive here? Can we thrive here? And if it does, then we go for it and we do it.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, we're going to move on to wine number 3, and this is its own Cinderella story, or I might say its own like Mount Crushmore story, because part of my documentary is anointing the Mount Crushmore of American wine, and pretty much every state that is making interesting wine has one. And a lot of them are interconnected because these people who were visionaries and breaking new ground we're very often working with each other and taking encouragement and being like, hey, what do you think? What do you got going on? And so, but this is a cool story like what we started with, which is the French-American friendship, in the sense that Oregon got its origins with Pinot Noir. Well, you tell who started it.
Well,
Papa Pinot.
Papa Pinot was actually, I like to think, started by kind of the first families that came to Oregon and really put down roots. Some of those families were the Iries, and they had been farming in
David Lett and now
David
his son,
Lett and
Jason.
His son, Jason Lett,
Yep.
had been farming in Oregon since the 1940s, early 50s. And he brought in all these different varietals, not just Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. He brought in Chassalas, he brought in Malbec, he brought in Cab Franc, a lot of different varietals to figure out what would actually work. And the same with Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. It didn't all work in all places and designations. Some things thrived better than others in certain soil contents. So, but now his son has taken up the flagpole, and it's fantastic, because now we have people like Willa Kinsey that are there, Argyle, the Ponzis that have been there forever as well. The sisters, the ladies, I like to call them. There's a large population of female winemakers that are in Oregon as well. Shout out to the ladies.
Shout out to the ladies.
That make fantastic wines.
So I think, so the neat thing about this one, so this is Domaine Drouhin, Oregon.
Yeah.
We'll take a look at the label real quick. This is their Laurène, which is their classic, their most famous bottling, their highest end bottling. When I asked the winery about featuring a wine, they said, well, you should definitely feature our top of the line. I was like, I'm not going to say no to that. I just want you to notice underneath Pinot Noir, it has the appellation or the sub-district of the Willamette Valley called the Dundee Hills. Oh, yeah. And that is exactly, they're right in the heart of that. It mentions, custom oak barrels from Burgundy. So this is a family, the Domaine Drouhin, Oregon, is by the Drouhin family. The Drouhin family originally from the Burgundy region of France.
Yes.
And this winery got started because although David Lett and Dick Ponzi and some of the others, the Sokol Blossers, had been there doing Pinot Noir much earlier, it caught the attention of Robert Drouhin, who said, I just had Pinot Noir from Oregon and I was impressed. And so they came at it a couple of decades later, but once you had the French sort of endorsement of the region, it really meant a lot.
Well, it's kind of the stamp of approval. We
Kind of like the Judgment of Paris was a stamp of approval on Chardonnay and Cabernet.
Well, very much so. And even though we've done the redo as well, it was interesting to see how that all flowed as well, which
Totally.
it all rang true again,
Yes.
for certain producers.
Yeah.
But to meet the daughter, Veronique, who runs the Domaine, it's fantastic. Dundee Hills, it's kind of a bowl that sits in the middle of the district, and you kind of ride in, and it's shaped like a bowl, and there's elevation, and within the elevation there are these different types of soil sets, and I sometimes like to think of some of them as layer cake.
Totally.
Yes, I do. And that's it's Oregon that I realized when I went to the Willamette Valley, I like going into soil pits. Yes. Dig a pit. If I can get in it, touch, feel, smell, figure out everything, I'm down there. And it gets me very, very excited because I'm like, okay. Then I want to figure out, okay, how do the vines grow? What will the grapes taste like?
Yeah.
You know, because there's a whole concept behind all of that as well.
Well, it's funny that you say that too, because you were saying that you get down there and you feel like you can also kind of smell it. And I've actually heard other women winemakers say that too.
Yeah.
Maybe, and I've also heard, oh gosh, what's the soil whisperer guy that does what's his name? Oh shoot.
Oh, they call him
Pedro Parra. Yeah.
Yes, Pedro Parra.
Yes, it's Dr. Dirt or whatever he
Dr.
is.
Dirt.
Yeah, and
Yes.
he's the same. He says he can smell what the wine's going to be like from being in the soil pit.
Yes.
All right, so keep her away from the backhoes. Unless we're going to learn a lot from that. I'm glad you mentioned Veronique because we have a lovely little video for her. It's the Drouhin video talking about the origin of the estate.
And I spoke to my father and I said, I would love to go to, back then we were calling the New World, and he was a very good friend to Robert Mondavi, who would come to Burgundy a lot. So I said, do you think I could work with Robert? I knew him, loved his wine, loved the man. He was such an inspiration and a good friend of Robert, my father, so the two Bob. And so my father said, oh, I'm sure he will take you, but I think you should go to Oregon. And so I looked at my father and I said, where is it? Why would I go to Oregon? And he said that he had been traveling to sell his wines from Burgundy here because there's a lot of people who love wine. And he said, but while I was there, I was presented some Pinot Noir. I had no idea they were growing Pinot Noir there. And he said, I was impressed. So he said, maybe it's interesting that you go there. Sure. So we asked our distributor if one of their suppliers would take a young French girl from Burgundy. I didn't think they would say yes, didn't know me, I was young, no experience, and they all said yes.
Robert Drouhin invested in Oregon. He brought his daughter here to train with people like David Lett, with David Adelsheim, with Dick Ponzi, and they all, nurtured her.
So I came here with my suitcase for Harvest 1986, and I spent 1 month with each of them. And obviously David Lett, Papa Pinot, can see almost his house from here. It was just unbelievable to be spending time with them.
So you can see that spirit of nurturing and almost going the other direction. One quick segue and we'll jump to the next wine, but her grandfather, Maurice Drouhin, was an aide-de-camp to MacArthur in World War II and a translator. And they have a picture of him, his military photograph in the winery. So talk about a connection to America. And I said to her, I don't think we would have a country without the French. And she said, well, I might be speaking German if it weren't for the Americans. Wow. And so that heartfelt connection is just, and I had said to people earlier, I guess I lost it, but I had my French flag in addition to my American flag, because yesterday was Bastille Day.
Yes.
And we're so joined at the heart that that's important, I think, for us to recognize.
Heart and hip.
Yes, exactly. So it was just absolutely delicious. I'm curious if anybody had any pairings. I thought, to me, the macaroni and cheese is the win with that particular one, but. And then, of course, I did the truffle popcorn, because anytime you bring truffles into Pinot Noir mode, you're good. So let's jump into, we're going to taste a little bit out of order. That's why we have numbers, circle numbers, and that's why we have numbers on our sheet. I'm going to just jump over wine 4. We're going to come back to it just for stylistic reasons, and we're going to stay in the Pacific Northwest and head over to Walla Walla, in this case, Washington. I think the AVA, the viticultural area, does dump over into Oregon a bit.
It does.
This part is the Washington side, and we have Bledsoe Family Winery. I know we're all in the other football mode right now, but Bledsoe is the NFL Bledsoe, and when he retired from the NFL, had already fallen in love with wine and decided to start this family estate. Josh McDaniels, who's been making wine to his mother's chagrin since he was 15. He started making wine even before he was able to legally drink it,
Wow.
but became really, really enamored with wine and wine growing, and they're collaborators on this. But we give so much attention to Bordeaux Cabernet Sauvignon, to California Cabernet Sauvignon, and rightly so. But Washington really has some beautiful cab, and their style is its own thing. What do you think?
You know, depending upon where in Washington, and in Walla Walla, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Syrah.
Oh yeah, and they make some great Syrah
And
from there.
Merlot.
Yep, yeah, the best Merlot in America,
Oh
I
my
think, comes from
God,
Washington.
Yes, is all grown. Like Cabernet from Walla Walla has this. There's fruit, but there's tannin structure, and you can smell it and you can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this voluptuousness,
Mm-hmm.
and you can smell that I'm gonna like you, but there's gonna be some tension there. We're not
I like
gonna
that.
fight, but there's gonna be a little tussle,
We're gonna challenge one another.
just a little bit, just a little bit, but it'll be friendly.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it will be friendly. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think also that gorgeous acidity that is almost a little bit more European acidity. For me, a little bit crunchier and crisper.
It's mouthwatering.
Yeah.
It's inviting for you to take another sip.
Yes.
It really, really is.
Yeah.
And in that, take another sip to continue drinking, take another sip to have a bite of something.
Yes.
To eat. And
Don't mind if I do.
yeah, you know, actually, this beef here, even with the spice, because it's not too fruit forward.
Right.
It has enough fruit,
Yeah.
but it's not so concentrated.
Right.
And it's actually a mixture of more red and kind of what
Yeah.
I like to call berry, more kind of
Yeah.
blueberry.
Wild berries.
Wild berry.
Yeah, totally agree with you.
fruit.
Yeah.
This would work really well with that, and it would just make it actually it would lift it
Yeah.
and actually make it evolve more on the palate.
Yeah.
And fill up the palate, actually. Try it and tell me what you think.
I'm dying to let you.
Yeah.
You guys must have tried this by now. Like,
Yeah.
first of all, that beef is outrageous.
Yeah.
Chef, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, kudos, big time.
yeah.
Really, really incredible. Oh my gosh. And I ate it with my hands because I was told that that is an ancient human tradition, cooking over fire and eating with your hands, and so I did it. And now my hands smell so good, and I just want to like, mwah. So delicious, but really, really great with that Cabernet. And I think what you said about it, there's something about the tension that really just does absolutely handles the beef, no problem. But it also the wine keeps its vibrancy. So we have a little quick video with Josh McDaniels talking about the Walla Walla region. What's Bledsoe?
I tell everybody when I'm traveling anywhere and I'm thinking about home, I think about what that looks like. It's like the Blue Mountains and then the kind of the wheat fields rolling into some of the forest. And so to me, like that is a very beautiful, very Walla Walla Valley morning.
What makes it great for wine?
You know, south-facing slopes, we get heat up here, but we also get a lot of cold air that rushes down the mountains, cools the vineyards down, so we get natural acid retained in the wines. So we get, you know, kind of the best of both worlds, which a lot of people talk about in Washington, where we get ripe fruit and ripe flavors coming out of the wines, but we also get, you know, that old world structure. So we get a lot of tannin up here, but we also get a lot of acidity, which is, you know, fantastic, you know, combination of best things that I like in wines.
Wait, we got it right.
I love that he said that.
Right?
Because one of the things that we talked about, because I said to you, when I think about Washington, I think about the old world and I think about Italy and I think about going to Piedmont and and going specifically to Barolo country because it's higher elevation, but you look up into the sky and it's just like, it's as though someone is going to start singing from the heavens.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's just, you can just touch it.
That is a great, I haven't seen a sky like that
Yeah.
other than the two, the Longueuil Hills
like that.
and the Walla Walla Hills.
Yeah.
Oh, I never had thought of that, but it's really true.
It's beautiful.
And there's this, it's an expansive feeling because the elevation, it's a long, long vista. So it's really something.
It makes you smile.
Yeah,
The wonder of it all.
yeah.
And then the wine's really good.
Yeah. And there's that. And you know, I think the thing that's exciting too about these wines is that as much as they've been doing it as long as Oregon has, pretty much, which, you know, in a commercial fashion is, you know, the late 60s commercially. Same thing with Washington. It's still a sleeper in terms of what it delivers for the price. So, you know.
It's a bargain. I mean, for this wine, $52 for what this is. This is more a traditional style Cabernet.
Yeah.
And, you know, if
Classical,
oh my
yeah.
gosh. If you like Cabernet from Graves,
Yeah.
you would love this. This is, you know,
Well said. And
Yeah,
I think we've
perfect.
got there, let's go to the label on that because
Yeah.
I think we've got there's it's wine 5. Thank you for asking. So yes, so we have, and that's a classical Bordeaux blend as well. So it's 82% Cab with some Petit Verdot, Malbec, and Merlot. And I would never have guessed 78% new French oak because it really is restrained and
handles
subtle. Yeah. So Josh, well done. Drew Bledsoe, well done.
You can drink this now.
yeah.
Or if you want to let it sit and settle and kind of stretch its legs and relax in your cellar, you can do that, you know, and be quite happy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm one of those people, I like to explore the vineyards. I've been known to have a pair of flip-flops in my bag so that I can kind of ground and be one with the earth. And the thing that's always amazed me when you go through Washington, you either have these kind of really sandy white soils that are really like sand, very fine sand.
Yeah.
Or you have these really fine pebbles throughout that are mountainous.
Wow.
It's wild.
That's, yeah, well.
And just the wine is just, which is why we have such delicious wine.
Yeah, and they say, I mean, I don't know a lot about it, but like geologically, there was the Missoula floods
Yep.
from Montana. Like this is big glacier that melted when the glaciers
And
were melting.
pushed everything up.
Boom, water all the way from across that way. So a huge amount of upheaval that created a lot of soil diversity. I like what you said about the flip-flops. I've been told by that there's a Native American phrase or phrase that's take off your shoes and caress the skin of Mother Nature. So, so in other words, go barefoot and connect with she who keeps us alive, which is awesome. So delicious wine. Wow, super excited about this. Now we're going to go backwards not in time, but in number. We're going to go to wine number 4. I believe I have a Texan or two in the crowd. A winemaker over here. We got some Texans. Yes.
All right.
All right. The Lone Star State. I wasn't born there, but I went to college there and spent some of my childhood there. I mentioned Denison before, and the research done by, and I can't think of the guy's name. Thank you, T.V. Munson, who did the rootstock research that got us onto phylloxera-resistant roots. Whole book on it that was a Bible for the rest of the globe. But this is, and this was one of our Route Sipty-Sip, Route 66 states, because the route actually traverses the Texas High Plains area. And so it's that part that you go through where most of the grapes are grown. However, we've got the best of both, just like a lot of regions where there's a wonderful ecosystem of wine country tourism in the hill country area, which is, you know, kind of equidistant or very, very close to both San Antonio and Austin, and a wonderful place to be. So this winery is called Bending Branch, and they're in the Texas hill country. These grapes, however, for the Tempranillo, and like Virginia, Texas is growing a lot of different grapes, come from the Texas High Plains, the Newsom vineyards, which is one of the most established, widely sourced vineyards. What's unique about this wine, well, many things, but one of them is that Dr. Bob Young started experimenting with Texas terroir taken to an extreme by...
Not the same as our Robert Young here.
No, exactly. Dr. Bob Young, he's originally from Kentucky, moved to Texas, and he began experimenting with Texas oak. So if we're going to take Texas terroir seriously, why not the oak? Because in East Texas, they have the same species of oak. So he started with oak chains and has been doing multiple wines with Texas oak. And so we decided to show this one, which is basically, it's got a Texas-sized personality, right? They say everything's big in Texas. That's true. And the personality of this wine is just screaming out at you.
Yeah.
But
it's a robust style, Tempranillo. I like to think of Tempranillo as having many different faces. And when you see Tempranillo and Malbec lined up, there are many different hues and colors, many different flavor profiles. And I like to tell people, think about it as a sunset. If it were a watercolor painting and there are these layers of color, that's Tempranillo. Yeah.
so this is on that more saturated,
Yep.
like rich, like almost flame
Yep.
end, as opposed to like the pink apricot end.
Yep.
Um,
Flaming red, reds and orange,
yeah.
kind
And
of bleeding into one another.
But I love there's a real prettiness. So speaking of that Texas oak, there's a real like sweet aromatics to it that reminds me of other expressions of American oak. Most of the time when we think of American oak, or a lot of it, when we think of American oak on wine as opposed to bourbon, we think of maybe Missouri, maybe Pennsylvania. And we can oftentimes, if we're, in the blind tasting game, can detect that it's American as opposed to French from that richness in the scent.
Well, also because American has that kind of slightly kind of green that comes through.
Yeah, like green coffee, a little bit of
Coffee bean.
Yeah.
Slightly kind of pickle.
yeah, exactly.
Pickled vegetable.
Right.
Even.
Yeah.
More kind of cucumber-like.
Yeah.
I like to think
I
of
mean,
it
here
anyway.
this is taking me more into the toffee
Oh, yeah.
kind of character that I think of Tempranillo aged in American oak from Spain, where you get that burnt sugar type of quality. How many people have had Tempranillo aged in American oak one way or another? Maybe not the Texas ones, but that's pretty classic in the Rioja region of Spain. So it made sense. So they're definitely not going to be getting any Texas oak barrels anytime soon, because he's probably going to get them all. But we have
this is
a
delicious.
cool, well, let's take a look at the label first real quick, just so we can let everybody see that. So this is their Reserve Tempranillo, and look at the elevation on those vineyards. So when they say Texas High Plains, they mean it.
37.
That's really up there. And he's doing the Texas White Oak aging, as you can see. But that whole berry maceration is one thing they're doing to help retain the freshness.
I was going to say that.
Well, say that.
Yeah.
Nope. Well, expand if you would like to.
So, whole berry maceration means that the whole berry, the whole cluster, has gone into ferment and create the mass for wine. So, having done that, it's not really like carbonic maceration where it heats up very quickly and can sometimes give you this sweetness and juiciness that sometimes if you do it too quick, too hot, will give you what we kind of call bubblicious. This is not
right.
that.
Right.
This is not that at all.
No, it's not.
No. This is just fresh, crisp, what I like to call almost, it's juicy.
Yeah.
But there are these layers of acid and minerality that are kind of dueling in and out of the palate as well. But then the spice that's coming from the barrel, you took a little bit of cardamom and you took a little bit of allspice, nutmeg,
Ooh. Totally.
some toffee.
And then you had it with this slider, which I took the opportunity while you were initially talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
That is, I know it's like, okay, a Texas slider with a Texas wine, but it's so good.
Yep.
And that whole, if they grew up together, they go together, like maybe so. Usually you don't get that from a non-classic region, but here we are. Texas is quickly becoming a classic. My first ever vinifera wine was a Texas Chardonnay from the High Plains.
But you know what, though? I like that because I think the things to pay attention to from Texas, besides Tempranillo,
Oh yeah, thank you.
Rhone varietals. So, Syrah, Marsanne, Roussanne, Grenache Blanc, Grenache Gris, Grenache Rouge. They're absolutely stunning. The rosés. There's even really beautiful sparkling coming out of Texas as well. Fresh and vivacious. Yes.
But you have to order it or you have to go there because there's a lot of Texas pride and the wine gets consumed there or basically sold there. So we have to, call them up or do it that way because they love their local wines, as we do in California, in the Pacific Northwest, those states. It's a really great, exciting thing. We have a quick little video from Dr. Bob so you can see how he got this inspiration to go.
I mean, to me, the most important factor outside of the grapes for red wines is oak. I mean, you look at all the barrels around here, right? All these red wines have oak, and why aren't we using Texas oak? But we have our own oak here. We have our own unique terroir because oak responds to terroir just like grapes do, right? And so I was thinking, the French did this. They would make their wine from local grapes and they would harvest wood from their local forest, and it was all integrated. We had it logged and cut into staves and aged for 2 years in East Texas, aged for a year here, and then I contacted a cooperage. And we had what's called oak chains made that you put inside the bunghole of a barrel, and you can get the effect of 50% of a new white oak barrel by doing that. And then we aged 3 wines with it, and they're spectacular. And people are going crazy over it here.
So, speaking of things that you can do with barrels, what I'm starting to see out in the wild, because I also write and review for Wine Enthusiast magazine as well, and I've been...
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
I know you've been doing it for a while now, but I haven't actually seen you in person to tell you that. So,
I've been talking to winemakers and some of the experimentation things they're doing. There are barrels that you can buy now that the composition of the barrels are French oak, but then the lids may be limestone.
wow.
Or some of them now are experimenting with having semi-precious stones within.
Whoa.
And it's
Crystal aged wines.
jade and all sorts of things.
Okay.
It's
Fascinating.
And if they don't tell you, which I had someone not tell me, but I tasted things from different lots and different barrels, but there's some semblance and just, it's really fascinating.
Super cool.
Yeah,
That's
very
super
cool.
Well,
So-
anything that's a natural material, I mean, it makes sense that the natural world interacts with itself, whether we are paying attention or not,
Yeah.
and in ways that have influences that we don't understand, but we experience. So we don't have the science behind it yet, and that's okay. Sometimes that's better.
That eucalyptus sap is going to be in there somewhere.
It's in there.
Just like that rosebush.
Exactly. Well said. Well said. So let's get to wine number 6. This is, some people think of it as America's grapes, and we do because we have such great old vines, old vineyards of Zinfandel. And this is Brown Estate. Right around the corner, Brown Downtown is one of the best places to taste wine in Napa Valley. I really believe that. It's just so cool. It's almost actually too cool for me. I'm not like, when I walk in, I feel like I need to, make sure I'm cool enough. No, I'm just saying it's like
never be too cool for school.
It's just such a great vibe. I think we maybe have a few of the folks from the Brown. Welcome, thank you for coming. All right, we got the back row. You guys, they just got off work probably or something.
Oh,
but anyway,
awesome! Thanks for joining.
But anyway, this is a beautiful the Brown family. I think it's the only or one of only 2 estate Black-owned wineries in Napa. Am I right about that? I think it may be the only
they're the
estate.
only,
yeah, the only one. Okay.
Yeah, the McBride sisters did buy an estate. They're not producing
Estate
from
wine.
it yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's a cool thing for us, but also a cool thing in the sense of the importance of and I guess connectedness of Napa Valley, because they started planting Zinfandel on the estate, which is way out Sage Canyon Road. Am I getting that right? Sage Canyon Road.
Which is near Pritchard Hill.
It's near Pritchard Hill. The property is stunning, what they've done with it to, because it's a historic property. But Mike Gergich, who made the Paris tasting winning Chateau Montelena Chardonnay, of course, came from Croatia and was a huge Zinfandel advocate, and began to collaborate with them very early. And they have so many wonderful stories about Mike and Ivo coming out and walking the vines with them and getting them going.
Some of, I think, the most forgotten about grape varietals that are grown in Napa in higher elevation are Zinfandel,
Right.
and Syrah.
Oh yeah.
Because they thrive here. They
Well,
really do.
speaking of high elevation, so up at the Laguerre Meredith property, which now Aaron Pott is farming and producing.
I love that property.
Carol Meredith, UC Davis PhD, she sequenced the DNA of the Zinfandel grape to determine its origins as Croatian.
Yeah.
Because and one of my poll questions that I had for you was, what was it? What is it really? It's Zerlianac Castellanski, and I know I'm saying that very not right, but we thought it was Primitivo, we thought it was Darif, lots of different things. She finally did the science to figure that out. So that connection there is beautiful. Let's take a look at the label of this wine. This is the Rosemary's Block Zinfandel, so it's an estate Zinfandel from their property out there. And you can already, when you smell it and taste it, you can see that it is not a big like sumo wrestler of a Zin. They did not over ripen it. They did not over oak it. It is just Zinfandel that's like crooning rather than, hollering. It's gorgeous.
But there are different styles of Zinfandel that marry it more towards claret, and this is one of those. And I think people forget that, because as you get into more old vine, because this is harboring now towards old vine more than not, because these vines are old vine now is over 25 years old. And when you start getting, I know that doesn't seem like it's very old, but
it is really young.
yes.
Just to be clear, 25
Right,
is
it
really
is
young,
really
at
young.
least in human terms.
Right. But in vine terms, it's starting to really show itself. And it is really, it's mature.
Yeah.
And these are older than 25.
Yeah.
These are probably more 35, 40 now.
And the cool thing is that those vines are able to, Zinfandel is unique in that it's able to last for a long time. A lot of vines, they succumb to diseases or other issues and have to be replanted quicker, at least in our part of the world. Not so much maybe in other places, but this is so exciting. And I just tasted it with the rice. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Did anybody do that?
Oh, yeah.
Woo!
Well, you probably because there's there's a little spike that's there. And I'm going to take a sip first.
Yeah. That is, I mean, man. So this is that time of the day when that time of the experience where I go, I love my job. And we get to say, we're at work.
We are at work.
We are at work. Oh, well, somebody's got to do it. What, did anybody try that pairing?
Oh,
Right?
gosh.
It's absolutely delicious. But to me, that's a great food wine period. Got great acid and just juicy red berries, lots of great spice. It's kind of dancing.
And it brings out the kind of savory element and the sage leaf that comes through. And then the dark berries that are youthful,
Yeah,
but they're coming.
yeah.
You know, they're there on the back of the palate and along the sides there. But again, what do you want? I want another sip.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I want another bite.
I didn't taste it yet with the mac and cheese, but I'm thinking that's probably a huge win as well.
It will.
Yeah,
And this will be, lighter and creamier on the palate.
right.
And it'll cause the wine to be much creamier in the middle of the palate too. And the fruit will be much more sumptuous
Yeah.
as well.
It's fun. I like that you're talking about it in textural terms. And the
Yeah.
truth of the matter is, and Chef would say this, I'm sure too, like when it comes to wine or food, texture is almost as important, if not as, and sometimes more, depending what it is.
It adds to everything.
I mean, because like we have the ability. It's not just that we've got taste buds. We've got the sense of touch, and that's why the variation here is so cool. And we talked about the kind of sort of like that electricity, the acid in the Riesling, and then the weight and kind of silky like oiliness of the Viognier, and then everything in between. And now we're back here to this thing that's got, it's almost like a hot rod of just moving across your palate, but with some finesse to it for sure. So any winning pairings? Like you guys must have like come up with your, Philippe. Ooh, I love that. Okay. So the spec, which was our take on Virginia ham with a little jalapeno on a biscuit, because of course we're talking about Southern style food, with, you said, the Washington Cabernet Sauvignon, so the Bledsoe family. Wow, that is really cool. So I'm doing this right now.
I'm diving in.
You're responsible for the outcome. You know what? Wow, the jalapeno thing is what takes it.
But you know what though?
Woo!
The butter on the biscuit
There's that.
makes the jalapeno sweet.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we like that.
We like that.
Yes, we do. Any other big insights before we wrap it? Well, I want to say, Tonya,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
My goodness. Where should we look for you? What are you reviewing for the wine enthusiast? I just ask you something. I do this all the time. I ask people a question as they're chewing, and it's like, thanks.
Northern California.
Well,
So-
there's nothing to talk about there.
Oh my God, there's
Gosh, you're
lots.
so busy.
Lots.
Wow, wow.
So, Mendocino, Anderson Valley, Clarksburg, Lodi, Lake County, Contra Costa County,
I gotta talk to you about Lodi.
Susquehanna, Winters, California AVA,
Wow. Well, that's
everywhere.
a lot. That's a lot.
Everywhere that
Is
pretty
it Napa
much-
and Sonoma, which is so
Yeah.
cool. All right, so
Yeah.
that's super exciting.
Yeah.
So look for her
Mendocino
stuff.
Ridge.
Really great.
Everywhere.
Really cool things.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I have my own consulting company too, so.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to lobby for both of us because we were talking about the Governor's Cup, and we would both like to be invited to judge
Yes,
it.
please.
Okay. So because we think that would be really fun, and we think we have something to offer you. Just kidding. No, I'm not kidding. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, the in-person audience as well as our live viewing audience. And thank you. And we have some rah hands in the back. Appreciate that. And I want to mention also something. I appreciate everybody's support here. This is a collaboration with Copia, the CIA at Copia. We do it ourselves, and we don't even cover our costs. We don't get any sponsorship, because what we really want to be able to do is do a great program of things that we like to do, and make it really educational and collaborative, and be able to talk about lots of things. So it's a real joy to be able to work with this team here, and especially the service team. They're fantastic. But this is an important time that I would love to get your support. If you happen to fly Delta Airlines, which has been a partner of mine for a long time, the first 3 episodes of my documentary series, This World Cup, are on the planes right now. And so if you search them up, you'll see The Sipping Point, which talks about how the Judgment of Paris tasting was a tipping point for the world of wine. You'll see the Mount Crushmore of American wine is episode 2, and if you can't tell on that picture, it's Robert Mondavi, Andrei Chelychev, Stephen Spurrier, and Patricia Gallagher, whose idea of the tasting was. And then you'll see Terroir, which is our episode defining terroir and how people can think about it as their cultural expression. So food, music, art, architecture, but of course wine. And so I'd love you to search up those episodes and take a look at them. And I'll give you just a little quick picture of what that looks like. We'll show the Stephen video.
We've held lots of tastings, but we've never held a tasting of California wine. And the purpose is to draw attention to the quality of wine coming out of California. But I said, we need a peg to hang it on. And she said, I've got the exact peg that next year, 1976, is the bicentennial of the War of American Independence. And I said, well, Patricia, we British don't celebrate that because we lost the colonies, but I'll go along with it. It was too much of a risk to me to have these wines damned with faint praise. And so I told Patricia, I said, I'm going to choose the 4 best white Burgundies from the shop and the 4 best red Bordeaux and put them in blind. And she said, you can't do that because the judges are coming just to taste California wine. I said, I'll explain it to them on the day, and if they don't agree, we won't do it. So, of course, all the judges turn up, and I said, most of you are not accustomed to these wines, and therefore I thought it would be more interesting to compare them blind to the top wines of Viognier Bordeaux. Do you have any problem with that? Bien sûr, Mr. Spurrier, pas de problème. And the rest is history.
So there you go.
Thank you so much for inviting me and having me
Thank you.
today, and I will come back anytime.
We will have you back
and,
often.
And talk about all things wine.
All things wine. Excuse me. I got really choked up on that one. It was really fun to interview Stephen. That was obviously before he passed away.
Yeah.
And I never knew that, I never knew that it was not a competition. I thought it was a competition between France and California. The French wines only got thrown in at the last minute so that people who were tasting them, which were the top palates of France, would not think there was nothing of quality in there. And that's really what made that tasting matter. It's what brought Robert and Veronique Drouhin to Oregon, and it's that extra juice that went in behind the American grit and confidence and fearlessness to take it to where it's gotten to today.
Well, that was the page turner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 So everyone, it's not over because we have this whole year of America 250, and then we've got the next many decades and centuries to keep writing that story. but let's take a toast to our birthday because it's a very special occasion and we're growing together. Cheers.
Cheers.
And thank you to all of you at home.
you for coming
Next
in.
topic on Quench will see you guys on August 19th. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, take care of your families, take care of the planet. She is our lifeline. And thank you for joining us, all of you, and we will see you soon. Cheers.